This theme of salt and light comes to us from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 5, where Jesus says, "You are the salt of the earth, but if salt has become insipid, how will it be made salt again? It's no longer good for anything then, except being thrown out and trampled underfoot. You are the light of the world. A city built on a hill can't be hidden, and people don't hide an oil lamp under a 2-gallon basket." I want to lift up first this passage, "You are the light of the world." It's one of several places in the Gospels and other early Christian writings where Jesus commands of us to be as he is. We're used to thinking of Jesus, of course, as the light of the world. He asks the same of us, the very same. It's not unlike what he asks in John 14, where he's talking to his disciples, and he said of his acts that he had just performed, "All this and more will you do," speaking to his disciples. And so the bar is set pretty high. I know for long portions of my life I tended to walk past those passages and not take them seriously until I encountered them again, first in the Gospel of Thomas, where Jesus says, "When you drink from my mouth, you shall become like me." And again in the Gospel of Philip, "When you enter the light, you shall be not a Christian, but a Christ," where we are called to act as redemptive figures ourselves. So, salt and light. I didn't have a good feel for how salt was made until, as a student pilot, this was in the South Bay, the San Francisco South Bay, I had to fly over what was called Leslie Salts, or the Salt Flats. It was what they called a call-in point for the tower in a very small airport in Palo Alto. And so I was suddenly flying over that spot a lot, and for the first time could see these massive acres of ponds where they would pipe in the water from the bay, which is salt water, and then the sun would evaporate that water and the salt would be collected. And there were also, next to these huge ponds, big piles, white piles of salt. It's not unlike the kinds of processes that were done in Jesus' time to extract salt in the same way from salt water. What he is saying, I think, to us partially in this gospel is that we are both the light and the result of the light working on the ocean, which is salt. And so we are both. We are called to do both. And once we have this salt, which comes from transformation with the light, right? Another transformation happens when we use the salt, right? So salt has the power to disinfect wounds, but you sprinkle it onto a wound and it dissolves. Salt has the power to preserve. I first was exposed to this in pickling with my grandmother, where we would first start with a salt brine and then we would put the cut up cucumbers in, and that is part of what preserved them. And so do we preserve what is good and what is just. And salt, as we know in more modern times, melts snow and ice from the roads and walkways. It makes clear passage for us. And Carmen Acevedo Butcher has this to say: "As salt, we can melt the iciness of perfectionism, the illusion of separation and anxiety." And of course, salt is dissolved in tears, tears by which we might mourn the brokenness of the world, and then become the agents of repair, the agents of the restoration of creation in the Jewish tradition. This is called the Tikkun Olam, the restoration of the world. I want to close with a passage from Carlos Rodriguez. "For every person who is marginalized, who has been abandoned, who has been rejected, the invitation is to be salt and light. Salt, which both gives flavor and preserves, and light, which always shines brightest in the darkness.